All right, welcome back to Race Ready Road to Boulder, episode 2. All right, so in case you're new, we are starting a new video series. March 3rd, I'm running a marathon, and June 8th, I am running a half Ironman. This will be my first half Ironman. I'll be running with Adley. It'll be his first Ironman, and March 3rd will be my 4th marathon, first of the year, but our 3rd together with Rosa. And Rosa's marathon is unfinished business. So last year we attempted to finish it, and we made a little mistake. So we've learned from that mistake, and we're not gonna do that again. So that's fixed. And what I wanted to do I wanted to talk a little bit about my running training. Not necessarily me running, but what I wanted to do for all of these endurance events was to change the way I run. When I started to run, I really didn't know the difference between pushing and pulling. Now, quick little story. When I used to work at 24 Hour Fitness, when I was a manager, I would hire other trainers to work for us. And one trainer I remember I hired, his name is Mike, and he's a decathlon, just a world class elite athlete. And when he was training under me, I remember I asked him a question. I couldn't remember what the question was, but he asked me, he goes, "Okay, let me see if I can help you." He goes, "Are you a pusher or a puller?" I had never even heard that question before in regards to running. I go, "I have no idea." And he broke it down to me. And when he broke it down to me, it still didn't make sense to me. Meaning, like, I got it, but I didn't understand the concept of how one can run without pushing. Like, how do you run? How do you pull when you run versus pushing? Like, okay, let me give you a quick little example. So I'm gonna put this on the floor, okay? And I'm far enough where you can see me. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to give a snapshot of a push run and a pull run. And I want you to see the difference. Now, running is it's the way you run, and it's what makes you feel comfortable. You don't have to run and change your running because I've mentioned this. Again, there is no there is a right and wrong way of doing it, but if you want to run the way you want to run, by all means, please run it the way you want to run. I just want to make sure that I explain the difference between a push, a pull, and why I've chosen to pull versus pushing. So, a snapshot of a run, if I were a pusher, would look something like this, right? So if you notice, the back leg is pushing me forward, and my front leg is in my front hemisphere, and you can see that I would be landing on my heels as I push off my back leg. So it would be the landing of the heel, which would be a pusher. Now, if I am a puller, my snapshot in between my run would look something like this. Okay? Now, if you notice, my leg is not in my front hemisphere. So I'm not landing on my heel, right? I'm actually going to land on the midfoot as I pull. Now, the big difference between my push and my pull is that, now that you've seen what it looks like. All right, so now the biggest difference between the push and the pull is the energy that is being used, right? So for example, if I was pushing, I'm actually pushing off the ground and I'm extending my knee, I'm extending my hip, and I'm extending my ankle, right? So ankle, knee, hip are full extension. So I'm actually pushing off of the floor with my ankle. Now, as I'm pulling, I'm now pulling and I'm bending my hamstring. So the difference between the push-pull is that when I'm pulling, I'm actually leaning forward just a little bit and I'm falling. I'm allowing gravity to push me down, and I'm preventing myself from hitting the floor by just, my feet are just now going under me. And as I'm falling, my feet are going under me. I'm now kind of doing this motion here, right? Where I'm leaning forward, running. Versus if I'm pushing, I'm more in an upright position and I'm driving off the floor with my feet and my ankles. So just to kind of clear things up when it comes to running, I've always said, get fit to run, don't run to get fit. Because running is a very complicated technique. It's an advanced technique. And for whatever reason, people think just because they want to lose weight or they want to get back into shape or whatever it may be, one of the first things people do is go running. And running is, like I said, it's elite, it's advanced. It's not just a matter of one leg in front of the other. So there's a whole science behind running, and that is a slight breakdown of why I've chosen to pull, because I want to conserve my energy when I go long distance. If I'm pushing off the floor, I'm using energy. If I'm falling, then I'm only using minimal energy, right? The goal of running is to get from one place to the next while conserving energy. Running is not meant to just exercise. So I don't want to exercise, or I don't want to run to expend energy. I want to run and burn the least amount of energy while running. And that is going to help me with any type of long run, is the proper running and the proper usage of gravity. So I will show you some exercises that I do to help my pulling and falling technique of running, and just wanted to share the differences between a push and a pull. See you in the next video. All right, so I wanted to share some of the exercises that I do to help me with my pulling technique. Now, one of the easiest ones, or the ones that I started out with, was hands on the wall and performing the footwork or the leg work in the correct position. So since I'm pulling, I want to bring the knee up, but I also want to bring the heel to my butt versus extending the hip, extending the knee, and extending the ankles. So because I've been a pusher my whole life, the concept of pulling and getting the movement of the pulling movement of my legs is, again, it's foreign and it's very difficult. So this exercise really helped. So I notice how I'm leaning against the wall. I'm not standing straight up and putting my hands on the wall. I'm actually leaning so that I get the feel of leaning forward when I run. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my knees up and my heel to my butt. Now, one of the big issues that people make this mistake is that they pull from the knee without pulling from the knee and the hip. So this is one of the exercises that helps me with my pull. Now here's the next one. So now because I'm using the falling, or using gravity, I have to learn how to fall forward, but not too fast so I don't fall on my face, and not too fast where I can't control my cardio. So what I do is I jump up and down with 2 feet. Now notice that I'm in an upright position. So when I start to lean, I start to fall. See that? But I don't want to break my posture where my hips are back and my shoulders are forward. I want to make sure that my shoulders are above my hips. I go into that fall, and that fall is what allows me to go forward. So let me give you an example. So I'm upright, and as I lean, now notice how I'm going forward. I pull back up to stop my progression. So that little weight balance teaches me about my weight distribution. Now, I'm not pushing off of my ankles. I'm actually falling, and as I fall, I jump, reposition my feet so I don't fall. So those are the two exercises that really have helped me develop my pulling technique. Now I can put it all together. Instead of running, I can now use the jump rope. So I use the jump rope and push or I pull at the same time. So I start my movement. Right? So that I can practice that knee and hip flexion, and then as I lean forward. So that's kind of a quick overview of how I'm practicing my pulling technique using gravity to assist me on my run. Again, those are just two exercises. There are a lot more, or three. There's a lot more that helped me, but I wanted to share with you guys just a couple to show you how I practice my run.